everyone. So today we're going to be doing a yin practice for our hips. And you don't necessarily have to have any props, but I do recommend maybe at the very least having a pillow nearby. If you are lucky enough to have a bolster to use, I would grab a bolster, maybe a blanket, and a block as well. But I'll definitely be giving you options just in case you don't happen to have anything at all besides your mat or even maybe just the floor. So let's go ahead and begin laying down on our backs. And for this first pose, we're going to be laying down on our backs in Supta Baddha Konasana, or a bound ankle pose. And the soles of the feet will just be together here in the knees, just relaxing comfortably out to the sides. Now, here's one of the very first poses where you might want to use props. If you're really tight in your inner thighs here, or even in your outer hips, it might be nice to kind of prop the legs up on either side just to give them something to relax onto. But if you're comfortable here without the use of props, we're just going to start here. Maybe turn the head gently side to side, letting go of some of that initial tension that you might have. Just finding that perfect resting spot. Begin to relax the shoulders down and away from the ears, and just finding a comfortable spot for your arms to rest. And begin by simply noticing the breath. Noticing the pace of the breath and the depth of the breath. Notice if you're breathing quickly or slowly. It's really this observation of our breath that we're going to use as our focal point for our yin practice today. Just remembering in yin we have a lot of time to be still, to be introspective. There's a lot of time for the mind to wander. So having this breath as our focal point can help to keep us focused and can really help us to further relax. So just starting to notice now what it feels like to breathe in all the way up from bottom to top. Noticing what it feels like to breathe out from top to bottom. We're not looking for the deepest possible breath that we can get here, but just something that is manageable, maybe a little bit deeper than what we walked in with. Something that's easy to follow. Nothing forced. Scanning the body, noticing the sensations that are coming up for you here. Remembering in our yin practice, we come up against some areas of discomfort often. So we never want to experience any pain. But as we start to settle deeper into the poses, we really just learn how to lean into the discomfort and breathe through it. Noticing the tendency to want to move when we become a little bit uncomfortable. Seeing if if we can continue over and over again to come back to this just light attention on the way that we're breathing. Maybe even imagining with each inhale that we're creating space in the body, creating space to open up. And with each exhale, we're sinking a little bit more into that space that we created. Allowing this sense of discomfort and knowing that it's not going to last forever. And bringing the attention back to that breath, noticing it filling the body from bottom to top. Noticing that release from top to bottom. Let's take 5 more full rounds of breath here. Really slowly start to separate the feet and really gently bringing the knees back up. And we're going to separate the feet about as wide as the mat here and just let the knees knock in for a nice counter pose. And just taking this nice constructive rest for a few breaths. Feeling that sense of circulation start to return to the hips. And swaying the knees slightly back and forth. So knocking the knees to the right and then to the left. Maybe feeling a sense of release in the low back here as well. Slowly coming back up, heel-toeing the feet back together and bringing just the right knee and then the left knee into the chest. And gently rocking side to side on the low back. Good. And now making your way all the way up to seated. We're going to move right over to our hands and knees here, so rolling over onto your knees if that's an accessible way for you to get up. And we're going to take a child's pose. So big toes touching, knees out wide, sinking the hips back towards the heels. And just really stretching those arms out in front of you, resting the forehead down on the floor. And seeing if we can begin to relax into the shoulders. Now if you do happen to have some props nearby, this would be a great place to use a bolster or a blanket. You could slide it right underneath the chest or the belly. And just relax into it right here. If you do have a bolster and not a pillow, you could also slide it this way and really give yourself just even more support to rest here in our child's pose. And this one will be in just a little less time than that last pose, but just Relaxing the back of the hips down towards the heels. And seeing if we can really connect with this sense of relaxation, of being in no rush to go anywhere. And just coming back to that steady rhythm of breathing. Let's just take 2 more full rounds of breathing here. And then go ahead and come on up, and let's take this bolster away for now and move through just a few rounds of cat-cow. So remembering as we exhale, we tuck the tail, round the spine, drop the head. And as we inhale, the belly falls, the gaze lifts, and the shoulders draw down and away from the ears. And just a few more times. And one more round. And now coming back to a neutral table pose, take your right foot up in between your hands. So for this one, here's where you're going to need some props if you have a hard time reaching the floor. If you can touch the floor with your fingertips, or better yet, your palms, feel free to just, don't worry about the blocks or any props at all. Otherwise, grab those and set up now. And then we're going to take our left knee now and step it back in space, probably 6 to 8 inches. So what we're looking for here is just a light stretch in the front of the left thigh. And we're just going to rest our belly, our chest, our whole torso over that right leg. Rest the hands down and drop the head. So no effort at all on the part of the neck. Just go ahead and let it release and just sinking into the hips. So this is our dragon pose. Really nice pose for opening up the front of the hip. And just like with any of our yin poses, the longer we're in it, the more intense it tends to be, the more we feel that sense of release. And the more important it becomes to focus back on our breathing. If you are resting your hands on the floor, make sure that there's some buoyancy in your elbows. So we don't want to be holding ourselves up. We don't want there to be a whole lot of effort here at all. You just want to lean into the stillness and close the eyes and see if we can focus just on being present, noticing what's happening in the body without feeling the need to change or modify. So for those of us who maybe have some tenderness in the knees, here's a good place where you might want to use a blanket. If you do have a blanket, you could take it and place it either directly underneath your back knee, or you could even place it underneath your shin so that your knee isn't resting on anything at all. But if you're comfortable where you're at, just stay right where you're at. No need to move here. Notice if you're holding on in the head, if you can really relax the neck. Just continuing to let the weight of gravity do the job for you here. So trying not to hold back, relaxing the elbows, softening into the hips. And just a few more breaths. And now from here, if you do have a prop underneath your back leg, go ahead and remove it. And now we're going to take our right foot and heel toe it over towards our left hand, or just move it over towards your left hand. Now, entry into this one from this direction is a little precarious. So if you don't feel like you could easily drop your right knee down to the floor like I've just done here into pigeon pose, feel free to kind of back out, maybe take a table pose and re-enter into pigeon pose from there, maybe even a downward facing dog. So from here, the right shin, it doesn't have to be parallel to the front of the mat. It can definitely be at an angle. We're going to find a place where we know that we can maintain the pose for a decent amount of time. So just checking in here. Top of the back foot is on the mat, top of the knee is on the mat, and we're trying to orient our hips forward. Now, if our hips are really tight, a really nice modification here would be to grab your bolster and slide it right underneath your hips. This one's really nice, especially for a yin class, to just give you a little bit more support. So if this is where you'd like to be, go ahead and just walk your hands forward. If you don't want to use a pillow or a prop, just go ahead and slide it away. And we're going to try to come down onto the forearms first here and just check in, take a few breaths. You could also bring your prop here underneath your forehead. And then if you can, stretching the arms forward and just resting as closely to the floor or to your pillow or bolster as you can. I do have one more intensification for you in this one, so just stick with me here for about 5 breaths before we try that additional stretch. And just relaxing into this one, noticing how we feel. So if you're fine right where you're at, no need to move. But if you feel like you need just a little bit more here, lift your head up. And we're going to take our left arm, slide it underneath our right arm, and come into this twisted pigeon. This one's one of my favorites. Really feeling this nice deep stretch in the outer right hip here, the outer right thigh. And just relaxing into it. Remember, we're in no rush in these poses, so maybe closing the eyes, coming back to noticing the breath. See if you can continue to follow the breath from beginning to end. And letting any thoughts just come and go.
breathe through the discomfort. And just trying to remain still. Notice without reacting to where we're feeling the most amount of stretching, of tension, of release. Just noticing the sensations as they arise. Take just 3 more full rounds of breath here. And we're just going to slowly start to press up out of the pose. Roll onto your right hip. And then slide your left leg around in front of you. And we're going to stack our left knee right on top of our right knee. And you guys can stay oriented exactly how you are. I'm going to turn forward so you can kind of see a little bit better here. We're going to take our knees and really just attempt to place one knee directly on top of or just to the side of the other knee. And see if you can take your shins forward or angled back. So just kind of find that spot that feels good to you. So this is a half cow face pose that we're going to do in yin. We call it shoelace pose. And again, props unnecessary, but if you'd like them, there's a few ways that we can use them. So I'll give you that in just a minute. For now, just finding that place where you know you can be comfortable for a few minutes or manage the discomfort for a few minutes. And then just kind of settle in. Maybe this is where you stay. For some of us, this is where we're going to stay. We're just going to close the eyes and maybe drop the chin. If you have some space here, you might kind of explore coming forward, bringing the hands in front of you. And you bring the arms out to the sides, just finding that place where you can be comfortable here. And the option, of course, would be to use a bolster or a pillow and just find a simple way to rest. Find that place that is manageable, where you can breathe. Maybe imagine breathing right into the areas where we're feeling the most amount of tension, tightness. Maybe it feels like the muscles are refusing to release. See if you can just breathe into that. And this one will stay in a little bit less time, so maybe 5 more breaths here. If you have the space now, coming forward, seeing if you can deepen into it just a little bit more. and stack the spine, unwind the legs, and we'll just stretch the legs out in front of us for just a moment and shake them out a little bit. Good. And just kind of notice what's going on from side to side. Good. And now we'll take it to the other side. So let's come back to our table pose. Always having our props nearby just in case we need them. And we'll take our left foot up between our hands now and walk that right knee back in space. So the second side definitely feels different than the first side. We've done a lot on that right side already, but we're going to really work into getting into the front of that right hip. Remember that you can place a blanket underneath your knee directly if you'd like that. Maybe the blanket can be rolled up underneath your shin so that your knee is hovering off the floor. And then you're just going to drape yourself over that left thigh so hands can touch the floor. Maybe we slide a block underneath each hand if we just need a little bit more. Finding that place that you can settle into, that you can relax into. And again, just dropping the head and seeing if we can relax into this with some buoyancy in the elbows. Our yin practice is really a good training for mental resiliency. This ability not to react, and the ability to breathe through discomfort. Just noticing this discomfort without feeling the need to change. And at the same time, noticing when it's time to move forward. And deepening into the pose. Improving our capacity to focus here by continuously coming back to the breath when we notice we've lost our way. Not too much longer here. Just a few more breaths. From here, go ahead and lift up just a little bit. We're going to make our way into our pigeon pose. So however you best can come into it, I'll guide you from here though. So taking your left foot, now you're going to heel toe it over towards your right hand. And if you have the space, go ahead and drop the knee out to the side. Remembering if that feels a little bit weird, feel free to back away and come into it from another direction. Maybe table pose, maybe downward facing dog. So finding your space here, maybe that front leg is angled at maybe a 45-degree angle. Maybe the shin is parallel to the front of the mat. Again, feeling free to use your props, slide it underneath the hips if you need just a little bit more support. You could also slide it underneath your chest. Good. Once you know where you'd like to be, once you're set up, go ahead and come down onto your forearms for the first 5 breaths.
And see if you can just relax into this. Maybe stretching the arms forward now that we've been here for just a little bit of time. Seeing if you can sink just a little bit heavier. And if you like a little bit more here, go ahead and lift your head. And we're going to slide our right arm underneath our left arm now. So we've got this nice twisted pigeon. The right temple's resting on the floor. You could certainly slide a blanket underneath your temple if you needed to. And just settling into the breath here. Noticing things that come up in the body, sensations. And just trying not to react to them. Coming back to the breath. And scanning the body here, noticing where you're feeling the most amount of sensation. And seeing if you can breathe right into that. Noticing if we're holding back anywhere. Seeing if you can relax or soften even the muscles of the face. We've got about 10 more breaths here. Last few breaths. And just slowly, really slowly, starting to unwind, coming on up, rolling onto your left hip, and carefully sliding your right leg around in front of you. Now we're going to move into that stacked knee position here again, that seated Gomukhasana. Stacking the knees on top of each other if you can. This time I'll show you from the side. So stacking the knees on top of each other,
Again, you could take the shins parallel. They can be at an angle if you want to. And you could simply stay here and tuck the chin. If you have some space to move into, again, feel free to crawl forward, drop the weight of the head down. And just finding your way into this one. We know we're not going to be in this one for a very long time. So if you feel really supported, you could take your hands out to the side for a little deeper variation. You could crawl your arms forward and just rest into this wherever you best can. We just have a few breaths in this one, so you won't be here that much longer. And just finding the breath, not gritting the teeth, not furrowing the brow. See if you can just relax here. Noticing, taking in all of the sensations. Slowly, carefully pressing your way up, unwinding the legs, stretching them out in front of you, maybe shaking them out just a little bit. Good. Now we're going to lie down on our back. We have one more pose each side before Shavasana. So just lie down on your back. You don't need any props for this one unless you need a blanket underneath your head. We're just going to lie down first and just simply relax. And just so you guys can see a little bit better here, I'm going to start with the left side. First, just let the right leg, though, move in and out so that we can completely relax it. So a little windshield wiper, a little internal and external rotation with that right leg, and then just kind of let it plop out wherever it naturally wants to. And then we're going to take the left foot into a supine tree position. So the knee is going to come out to the side, and the foot's going to rest against the inner thigh. The inner knee is also fine since we're not standing, the inner calf, but just find something that feels meaningful to you. And then we're going to take our arms over our chest as if we're about to do an eagle pose. So let's cross our right elbow on top of our left. And instead of wrapping the arms, we're actually going to reach down and grab hold of our shoulders in this one. See if you can hold onto the shoulders, the top of the shoulders, really gently, and then really softly encouraging the shoulders down. So just this nice little hug on top, this tree pose on the bottom. And closing the eyes. Slowing down is really hard. Taking the time out for yourself to just relax and do a little self-care is really challenging. So just the fact that you're doing this for yourself today is really awesome. And still continuing to feel the breath as we fill from bottom to top. As we continue to lie here with each exhale, just relaxing those shoulders down just a little bit more. Take just 3 more breaths here.
release the arms, release the leg, and then we'll do that same thing other side. So first start with just that internal and external rotation on that left side. And then bring the right foot up against the inner thigh, knee, maybe the calf muscle, just finding a spot again that feels good to relax into. And then bringing the arms over the chest again, this time left elbow over top of right, and reach for your shoulders. And gently pull the shoulders down. Just relaxing here. Really appreciating this time that you've put in to nourish the body, to nourish the mind. Each inhale, feeling yourself fill with air. Each exhale, seeing if we can relax the shoulders down just a little bit more. And just a few more breaths here. Slowly release the arms alongside you. Stretch that right leg out. Good. And situate the legs in a place that feels comfortable for the next few minutes. Let the arms just completely relax. And if the head and neck feel comfortable right where they're at, just go ahead and stay right there. Or move the head around just a little bit, finding that place where we know we can be comfortable for the next few minutes. Closing the eyes if they're not already closed. Let's take a deep breath here in through the nose. Exhale, let it go out of the mouth. Letting the weight of the body now sink into the floor. Letting the breath return to its natural pace. Just soaking up all of the benefits of the practice. slowly deepen the breath. And gently moving the toes and the fingers, rolling the wrists and the ankles, and just really softly turning the head from side to side. Slowly sliding the legs together and stretching the arms back up and behind you. And then relaxing and melting into the floor for just one last moment. And gently bringing the knees in towards the chest. Rocking side to side. When you're ready, slowly either rolling to your side or rocking up to seated. Bringing hands together at the heart. And thank you all so much for practicing with me. Namaste.